My name is Brams Frouws. I'm the head of the Mixed Migration Center, which is a network of teams within 7 different regions right now who are engaged with collecting data, doing research, doing analysis on the phenomenon of mixed migration. In a nutshell, mixed migration refers to the movement, to the migration of different groups of people with different motivations and different legal statuses. So among those groups of people that are on the move might be refugees fleeing war or persecution, but also so-called economic migrants moving to find a better future somewhere else, moving to find jobs somewhere else. So it's a mix of people, but they travel along similar routes. They use similar means of transportation. Quite often these movements, these mixed migration movements, are irregular movements, which also means that they have a lack of a legal status, a lack of legal protection. They might not dare to report any instances of violence to the police because they would be afraid they will be detained and deported as a consequence of being irregularly in that country. And that makes them easier also for all kinds of criminal groups, for traffickers to exploit these people because they don't have a lot of rights in those countries. Another solution is providing assistance for people on the move. Just make sure that they know where to go if they run into any problems in those countries, even if they have an irregular status. Make sure the assistance is available in terms of offering shelter, offering basic food and water assistance, but also offering legal protection where possible. Third, I think more regular pathways, because people do engage in these mixed, often irregular flows because they see no alternative. What makes it really difficult in terms of providing assistance and services to people in mixed migration flows is that it's such a diverse group of people. And it's very different from the more traditional refugee context where you have a more homogeneous group of people, often coming from one country, one nationality, speaking one language. What we see in some of our operations, whether it's in Niger or whether it's in Mali, is that you get such a diverse group of people that speak maybe 15 different languages, which means in a very practical terms, the people we have working there trying to provide service to people in mixed migration flows, they also need to speak 15 different languages. I think another really important aspect with mixed migration is that in a way it's a relatively small phenomenon. If we look at the whole world population, most people don't migrate. A very small percentage of the people in the world migrate. Most do so in a regular and well-organized manner. And then there's a really small percentage of the total number of migrants that migrate in an irregular fashion. It gets too much attention. I think we shouldn't exaggerate the phenomenon of mixed migration in a way. Look at Europe, to what extent the whole 2015, 2016 situation created such a political panic and a political crisis all over the continent. While we're speaking of a continent with more than 500 million inhabitants, which is the richest continent in the world, and they should be able to properly organize these movements and make sure that people get the protection they need and organize migration in a smarter, more humane and more comprehensive manner than they're currently doing. At the national level, we see a lot of focus on protecting borders, on the national immigration laws, understandably. But at the local level, we see that that's where local governments have to deal with migrants being in their cities. And they often realize that a better way to integrate those people is make sure they have shelter, they find housing, they're able to find jobs and contribute to society. Because the alternative is that you have large numbers of undocumented migrants on your streets as a city. And local governments don't want that. So I think in a way there's a lot that national governments could learn from how local governments are dealing with migration. So in terms of addressing the phenomenon of mixed migration, we need implementation of the 2 compacts. There are a lot of good provisions in both compacts. Again, when it comes to creating more regular pathways, providing people access to screening and referral, providing access to services, countering negative narratives around migration. So I think there are a lot of good elements in both compacts, but we just need to see actual implementation starting to happen from this year.